Morning, America. My name is Marie Jones. I've started a podcast of my own. I'm calling it Misconstrued America. There are so many things that are easily correctable and nobody addresses that I think need to be pointed out, and who better to do it than me? Let's go stir the pot. In this podcast, I want to cover everything, anything. If you have questions, hopefully I can get them answered for you. Feel free to email me with suggestions or topics, concerns. My email is papriniak1@gmail.com. PAPRINIAQ, the number 1, @gmail.com. So, some of the topics I would like to cover in my podcast, we'll be touching more into each one, however many episodes we do. But I wanted to come on here and introduce myself to you. But some of the topics that I'll be covering are like felons. How come they can't vote? They live in the same country we do. How come they can't travel? Every other country wants to get rid of all their felons, and we're the only ones not letting go of ours. The people that are on death row, how come we don't just kill them? They're on death row. We spend all this money housing them and feeding them. Maybe you can help me understand, or I'm just trying to figure out the how comes. Or how come the people that are, old enough to fight for our country and die for our country, but they're not old enough to drink or smoke? Or how come the people who file false charges on other people, have you ever heard of them getting in trouble? Me either. Or how come there's no consequences to unpaid child support? They're not afraid to not pay it because there's nothing going to happen to them. And how come, the parent that is the responsible one, whichever it may be, I get it why you want them to have the child with the more, I maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but the child that is with the predominant parent, or how come they only get to be the strict parent while the other parent gets to do summers and Christmases? Like, they get the fun times and we get all the, not we, but where we have to be scoldy and go to bed and, Or how come people who get caught stealing don't get their fingers chopped off? Or we live in an heavily overpopulated earth, and it would take something drastic to save everybody, which is darn near impossible. But why don't we have IQ tests for, or not IQ tests, but, well, that's part of it, but, bring in your tax returns or something, like prove that you can afford the child instead of another kid on welfare, another family on welfare. Or, like the people who have no problem giving birth to babies and just adopting them out like they're nothing. It should be, after so many, you should be forced to tie your tubes or something. We are already in an overpopulated earth. I'm not trying to be inhumane. I'm trying to be more of a realist, I guess. Here's one a lot of you might like. We were talking about this yesterday about, sex offenders or violence against, or, child sex offenders. Like, why don't we turn their skin a different color? Make them wear it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, could you imagine walking by someone who's purple? You know exactly what they did. Since we have such a hard time with these people registering, why don't we just permanently make them purple? It sounds hilarious, but not, That's another piece for a later date. Or like, if you are a criminal many times over, I've heard so many criminals be so proud of what their crimes are. Like, it's something to brag about when it's not. Like, how come we don't just get all your crimes tattooed on your face? That way everybody can see it. Would you still do them? Since nobody's afraid to go to jail anymore, why don't we let everybody see? Or, like, people who get caught doing like the same crime over and over and over again, it should just, after so many times, it should come with a life sentence. Like, we keep letting these people out and they're not getting any consequences for what they're doing, or they don't even care. Because America's more of a price tag rather than a punishment. Or how about, it don't matter how famous you are, or, if you're the president or the police or the Pope, you get caught doing a crime, you all go to the same jail. No special treatment, no resort jails. The people that are getting married, I think it should be changed to, instead of married, call it contracting, because that's basically what you are doing anyways. That way each couple will technically write their own like prenup, basically, or what happens afterwards, or how long do we stay married. It could be done almost any which way you write it. Why don't we be more in control about the way we are staying with each other? You know what I mean? There'd be kind of, in a way, more divorces, more or less. Or how come we don't have to renew a marriage license? We have to renew every other kind of license. Make it like every 5 years or something like that. Doesn't have to be anything, significant. Just make it something that if you would like to continue to be married, we have to renew our marriage license. It'd be so much easier than paying all these fees and everything for all these divorces. And just remember, you wrote those rules yourself. So be cautious about what you're doing getting into them, because they're not exactly easy and people overlook them for what they are. And marriages are a big deal. And if you don't want to stay married, let it expire. A lot of this topic came on because of we were asking, do your kids know what holiday we just celebrated? I asked my kids, or a couple of them anyways, and not the answers I was expecting. I'll tell you one thing though, none of them said Christ's birthday. And you go to not one store anywhere here in Anchorage, and you didn't see anything celebrating the birth of Christ. The only thing you saw were people celebrating Christmas, the reason we buy presents. That's how a lot of this came on, was that. And because I yell it all the time, like when I'm out playing pool, is that, Sundays are for football, not church. I believe in God. I believe in right and wrong. I believe in heaven and hell. I believe in good and evil. But I don't believe in the church. And I don't believe in the Bible. And when you say that, because every time people want to change something, they find a new scroll or a New Testament, or a new and improved version. The only people who I feel go to church every Sunday are people who sin all week and they need people to see them go pray for it. God can hear you at home. The only thing I hear about the churches nowadays is how much they give for people's electric. Like, it's a good thing, but the church was put into place to do so much more. It's failing, or I feel it's failing, for people to recognize it, or failing for it to be seen, whatever it may be. I mean, or the homelessness problem that everybody's been ranting and raving about for, months and months and months, and nobody seems to have a solution that they're proud of, and I kind of have one. I want to build a village. It takes a village. As much as I love where I come from, I also hate a lot of things about it too, and the positives definitely outweigh the negative. And I think it would be a good idea. Build a village for the homeless. We'll get more into detail with that on another day. Who knows? Maybe we could start that one tomorrow. Or how about a shopper's card? You know, kind of issued to you like an ID card or a driver's license. You know, you get a shopper's card too. That way, if you get caught, boosting or stealing, your shopper's card will be revoked and you will be forced to shop like from an outdoor kiosk or something, because what is happening in Anchorage is beyond crazy. And that's all we hear about down here is the killings and, the police involved shootings. And look how small our city is. And it's getting such bad rapport from everywhere when it could be so easily corrected. Or what about the law enforcement? How come everybody's like afraid of them? I mean, yes, I do want them to enforce the laws we have, but also we as people, like, you guys make it hard for us to talk to in any way, shape, or form. Now, I'm not trying to make this us against them or, that type of thing, but it should be something we all could kind of work together and maybe come up with a solution. And I'm thinking that this podcast will open up a lot of topics that people are scared to, talk about. And like, people lose their kids to OCS all the time and they have to jump through so many hoops to try to get them back. I can't imagine jumping through, through everything. How many people would actually be able to do it? It opened eyes to a lot of things. How strong people really are, I've seen some people who I wouldn't have expected, do some things that I thought people who could did, Or if what if something were to happen as far as, a war, does your family have a plan in place, What are some of the ideas that, you have? Can others follow them? Or, I was saying yesterday that we could throw people on death row. Why don't we just throw them into volcanoes? We're running out of room to bury people. And why do people want to get buried anyways? That's so in the ground. I get it that life isn't permanently, but I don't think death is eternal either. Or how come people plan all their birthday parties? How come they don't plan their funeral? You leave it up to your family to do. They get to pick what they thought your favorites were. Oh, hell no. There's just so many ideas out there in so many directions, so many ways, so many conversations, so much good, so much bad. I just feel like who better to go stirring the pot than me? Not trying to stir it to make it a bad thing, It's like when you're cooking. Stir the pot so it doesn't stick to the bottom. Don't stir the pot and it sticks anyways. Shouldn't we have done something to fix it? Or how about all of my children, your children? They'll be paying for water. We already buy it, but imagine in the very near future where it's no longer pumped into the homes, but you're being charged for it. You know? Or if something were like martial law were to happen, exactly what happens during martial law? Or, I don't know. Like I said, this is my very first podcast. Lots of subjects in every direction. If you have questions, suggestions, thoughts into anything that I mentioned, or, thoughts of your own, feel free to hit me up. My email is papriniak1, PAPRINIAQ, the number 1, at gmail.com. My name is Marie Jones, and this completes my first ever podcast, Misconstrued America.